tonight from Black Facts Headquarters Central. You know what time it is. It's 9 o'clock and we's about to rock all around the clock. Doc Ock coming at you live and direct tonight from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. And I hope everybody out there is feeling real fine. Now, for tonight, let's see what we got. We got our, always got to give you our helpful reminder. Please don't forget to give us a like and a thumbs up, and then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. You see the button below? Don't ignore that button. Hit that button. Or as some people like to say, hit that jive jack, because I'm going to outer space as fast as I can. I ain't got time to shake your hand. Just hit that button. That'll be much appreciated. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and do our proverb for tonight. All right. This one is a little bit harder, but it's not, I don't think it's too hard for me to do. But I'll take it slow. Aliye juu mgoje chini. Aliye juu mgoje chini. All right. Oh, all right. Hold on one second. Okay. Here we go here. Okay. Hold on a second. Caught me right in the middle of my show. Bad time to call. Here you go, Mom. Your son. I know you were, and I knew I had it. I brought it to you. All right. Oops. Sorry about that. That was my brother calling. Okay. I've been trying to get him to get the timing together, but he hasn't got it yet. Meanwhile, where were we at? Aliye juu mgoje chini. Wait at the bottom for the one who is up. Wait at the bottom for the one who is up. Yeah, and I'll let you figure that one out. I think it's pretty clear. Wait at the bottom for the one who is up. Just think about it for a minute. And while you're thinking about that, we'll go ahead and read from our book of the month, Never Caught, the story of Ona Judge, an enslaved African woman who escapes the clutches of George and Martha Washington. And it appears as though we have reached the part where she is planning her escape, because she sees she gonna have to escape, because if not, they're gonna have her enslaved forever, passing her down like an heirloom, like a family heirloom. The planning, chapter 16, the planning. During the spring of 1796, Ona Judge's mind would have been filled with dreams, nightmares, plans, and challenges every night as she brushed Martha Washington's hair before bedtime. She would have to be careful not to tug too hard on the aging woman's scalp. No matter how furious she was that Martha had betrayed her so completely. Each morning as she removed the stains from Martha's dresses and scraped the mud and dirt off her shoes, she'd have to stop herself from angrily ripping the dress and destroying the shoes, forcing herself to calm down and confront her future. What Ona knew for sure was that she would never, ever, ever, ever be Eliza Park Custis' Law's slave. Not for one day, not 1 hour, not even 1 second. Because she knew this woman, she had grown up with her. She knew just how cruel, mean, and evil that she was. Now she would have to figure out an exit plan. In public, Ona held her tongue, just like Martha pretended to be happy about Eliza's wedding to Thomas Law. Ona pretended to be Martha's obedient slave. She could play that too. Oh yeah, Ona got game. In reality, Ona reached out for help. The Underground Railroad did not yet exist. Harriet Tubman had not yet been born. The escape routes that the enslaved whispered about during the years leading up to the Civil War were still a fantasy. The rooms where slaves hid, the tunnels under the roads, the secret compartments in wagons, those were more than 30 years in the future. See, she all back in the day. In 1796, slaves who planned their escape had fewer options. Many times they trusted the stories they heard about escape routes, fleeing to the wilderness, hiding in an abandoned cabin, scrambling into a stone cavern. The goal was to get lost in a city or reach a free state where they would be able to have a new identity, hiding from the nosy slave catchers who were poking around looking for the easy reward of turning in a fugitive slave. Ona had the added challenge of wanting to escape from the most important person in the country. More challenges. She was in a city where everyone knew who she was. She did not know how to read or write. Most of all, she was terrified, but her anger helped. Whenever she thought about it, she could still not believe that Martha was going to give her as a gift, like a piece of china, to a woman who everyone knew was impossible. Every time Ona thought about this, it reinforced her decision to leave as soon as possible. She had to make a plan, and she had to carry it out. It was clear to Ona, most of the other slaves in Philly, it was clear to Ona and most of the other slaves in Philly that the life of a fugitive slave was dangerous. Despite the gradual abolition laws in some of the northern states, several hurdles stood in the way of the men and women who escaped. The most obvious hurdle was weather. Northeastern winters were ice cold, literally freezing one of the main routes to escape, the rivers and the creeks. It was hard enough to get a warm coat or shoes when you were enslaved, particularly if you were from one of the southern states. To be on the run in a threadbare coat was asking for hypothermia or death, whichever came first. Escaping during the spring and summer was not much easier. Fugitives were just as susceptible to heat and humidity as they were to brutal cold. They could die from dehydration, starvation, or heat stroke. Take your pick. Ona's escape deadline will be determined by the date when she will be expected to join Eliza's new team of house slaves near the federal city, where the newlyweds had purchased a home. Presumably, Martha thought Ona should move in with Eliza and Thomas when the rest of the Washington household packed up to travel to Mount Vernon for the summer. Ona also faced a familiar and frustrating obstacle: her gender. 90% of fugitive slaves from Pennsylvania down to Virginia were male. The reason was pretty simple: chilling. Marriages between slaves were not recognized by the law, but as always, people fell in love and wanted to remain with their partners and begin families of their own. Throughout the plantation-filled South, many enslaved women fell in love and had children. Many enslaved women were not in love but still had children. What was true for just about all of them was that they were responsible for their children. Even if fathers wanted to be involved in their children's lives, they were sometimes working in fields far away from their wives. If and when an escaped father decided to escape, he would more than likely go it alone. The age range of most fugitives was between 16 and 35. Not coincidentally, this was also the exact age span when enslaved women tended to be pregnant, feeding, or caring for a child. Even if a woman with a child had the opportunity to escape, it was often an impossible decision for her to make. If she left her child behind, the child could be whipped. If she took her child with her, she would most likely be caught. An infant's cries of hunger would shatter the necessary silence of a fugitive's flight. A small child would be unable to keep up with the adults, literally running for their lives. For many of the enslaved women, there simply was no choice. They would remain slaves because Their priority was to care for their children, no matter the cost to themselves. Ona had managed to reach the age of 23 without having any children. If she escaped, she would likely never see her sisters and brother at Mount Vernon ever again. This was painful, but it was not the same agony as having to leave one's child behind or else risk that child's safety by taking him or her along on the run. Ona's youth and her childlessness would aid her in her escape. What would stop her in her tracks was the overwhelming fear of what could happen if she were caught, captured, and returned to the Washingtons. She was right to be afraid. George Washington was extremely vigilant about any and all escape attempts from Mount Vernon. Sound like he running a prison up in there. Even while he was living in Philadelphia. He would also punish or sell difficult slaves when he thought it was appropriate, even though he maintained that he did not like to rip apart the families of the enslaved. Oh, he's got morals and scruples, etc., right? During the early 1790s, George sold at least 2 slaves after he determined that they could not be controlled. He wrote his Mount Vernon estate manager, Anthony Whiting, that he would take action if a 3rd slave named Ben refused to behave. If a stop is not put to his rogueries and other villainies by fair means, and shortly, that I will ship him off, as I did Wagoner Jack, for the West Indies, where he will have no opportunity of playing such pranks as he is at present engaged in, end quote. That's a quote, direct quote from G.W., George Washington himself. Wagoner Jack had been sold for a quantity of wine. Physical harm was the other weapon George Washington and other slave owners used as a way to control their enslaved population. Ona's sister-in-law, Charlotte, Austin's widow, was the victim of such physical abuse. In January 1793, almost 2 years before Austin's death, Charlotte had defied Anthony Whiting, and he wrote George that he gave a very good whipping, and that he was determined to lower her spirit or skin her back. Now, for those of you who don't get that, that means take all the skin off her back. George responded to Whiting, agreeing with his handling of Charlotte and stating, and if she or any other of the servants will not do their duty by fair means or are impertinent, correction as the only alternative must be administered. Oh yes, they must be corrected. George believed that he was a fair slave owner. The scars on his slave's back would probably argue otherwise. Now was the time when Ona could take advantage of living in a city with such a thriving population of freed black men and women. They would help her. Luck was on Ona's side in this way. The one man who could and did help runaways regularly visited her house. The preacher, cobbler, and chimney sweep, Richard Allen, could offer some assistance. Good old Richard Allen. I know she waiting on that dirty chimney. Yeah, she probably trying to smoke it up right now so that he'll show up. Because you may not know this, but if you don't have a clean chimney, if your chimney is all got a whole lot of creosote and soot in it, that stuff will catch on fire, and it'll, that's not good. You don't want your chimney on fire. All they're supposed to do is just deal with the smoke and get the soot and the smoke out. That's it. But you don't want it on fire. Okay, that could cause you other problems we don't even want to consider. Meanwhile, that is our story for tonight. We're telling we're on our noontime show. What the topic we're dealing with right now is festivals, holidays. We're doing our whole theme for the month is holidays, and one of those holidays is called Emancipation Day. And so we're reading this book currently for our noontime show, Passenger on the Pearl, about Emily and Mary Edmondson and their escape from life as a DC slave. So it's about some more young ladies who are enslaved. Them and their whole families are enslaved in the DC area, and they board the Pearl to make their escape. So we'll be reading about them, and then on the weekend we got a special coming up where we'll be showing some video about Emancipation Day. So look for the video on the weekend about Emancipation Day. Meanwhile, we hope you do it with a smile. We're going to hope that you do it in style. And while you're waiting on us to return, all you little children need to take your little heads and lay them on your little pillows, on your little beds, close those yeah eyes, and wait for that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, you know what time it is. It's time to rise and shine and greet the new day in a whole new way. Because every day should be greeted as if it's divine. So, peace out until next time. All you adults, you already know what to do. You got your marching orders. Give us a like, a thumbs up, and then subscribe to the YouTube, to our Tubular Black Facts YouTube channel. And if you've already subscribed, go ahead and have your friends and your family sign up. Get them signed up so they can get some of this sweetness. Because what we got here are stories you won't hear anywhere else, not even on CNN. Peace out, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow at noon. Until then, be good.